What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk a little bit about God of War. And, sometimes I like to jump into this drama if it starts to fill my feed and I can't get away from it, on social media. I was actually going to do a different video, but I thought this one could be an interesting one. So there was this tweet, and I do believe it originated from the tweet. Tell me if the lore is off in the comments, from Dexterdo saying God of War gameplay looks like a movie, and it's just showing some, I would say, really good gameplay. Now, that's just me. Obviously, it's not the rest of the internet, because, it's not ratioed. 27,000 likes, and unless maybe a quote tweet kind of beats that, but 27,000 likes, 2.6 thousand tweets or retweets or quote tweets, whatever, and only 720 comments. I mean, yeah, like, you have comments calling it out, and we're going to start talking about that, right? That have like 3.2 thousand likes, so like there is some traction to the negativity, but I really don't understand this. So basically, this tweet, I mean, I don't know if it was bait. I don't know if they literally were just saying, hey, remember how cool and how like cinematic the gameplay for God of War looks like? And it's turned into an online thing where God of War is just all cutscenes. It's just all cinematic, and the game is a movie. All Sony games are a movie. And I mean, like, are some of them, or can some of them be at times? Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. For me, whenever it comes into like the movie cinematic thing, I always take a pretty hard stance against any of that. Even things like walking sims, I really will defend them to my last breath, at least most of them. There are some, maybe like an Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which I don't think is a bad game, but, there's some games where it's like, okay, you do literally walk around and a story is kind of told to you, right? That does happen here and there. But besides that, like, games are games, and I will defend them at being games for as long as I can, and I guess as long as you guys allow me to on online. So I don't know. I mean, I don't get it for God of War. Like, I think, honestly, specifically for God of War Ragnarok, God of War 2018, I think actually it is a blueprint of how to do both of them really well. Now look, I've always said this. God of War 3 is actually my favorite God of War. I will still stand by that. I think that game also captured the same thing I'm about to talk about, though. I think they meld cinematics with gameplay super well. And, it's done in a different style, like even just the camera work of 2018 and just some of the way like the camera pans and like sticks with things. It's different. It does look more cinematic. It looks almost more movie-esque, right? But I mean, to look at God of War 2018 and look at God of War Ragnarok and call them just a movie. And now, again, I'm not saying like that's not what the base tweet was. I think it's just the general reception online because of it has been, oh, this is just a, it's a cinematic game. There's nothing more to it. I mean, have people played God of War Ragnarok? And the answer is yes. Cutting to the end here, we got to remember, and I have to remember, and I think I do a pretty good job with this. This is all just online, right? Like, Twitter is a fraction of the world. Now, it's a good amount of people that go on social media. Twitter is its own unique being. There will be arguments and these kind of like build-ups on Twitter, on X, that are nowhere else. Nowhere. And I've talked about this like in the Scream community. I cover Scream a lot. There will sometimes be these huge arguments and this huge controversy that if you go on Instagram, you go on YouTube, you go anywhere, it's not there. It's literally just not there. And I always talk about even just separating social media from like the real world, right? Where, yes, is there crossover? Oh, I just said it. Of course there is. But it's not every time. And Twitter doesn't represent the world. So I know that's jumping kind of to the end of the story. And I do think it's important for a lot of these people that are like chronically online. They just like can't get that out of their head where they think that everything that they see is just the truth or just the real facts or whatever. You got to remember that, number one, Twitter is not everything. In fact, again, there'll be isolated events on Twitter that are nowhere else. And then number two, like, Twitter isn't even a fantastic representation of the entire world. It's part, but it's not like all of it, right? So that's kind of jumping to the end. I do want to go back to the whole, like, did anybody play this game? Which the answer is yes. The answer is this game was highly well received. This game sold really well. Like, it performed awesome. The Valhalla DLC, like, it really, I actually think I like God of War 2018 more. Like, see, I'm willing to be honest. I'm willing to be open with this stuff. I don't even think Ragnarok is the best one of the last three. I actually think it's the worst of the last three, but they're all elite. So it's like, it's comparing really great games against each other and saying one's not as good as the others. They're all good. They're all good, right? It's just kind of your personal preference. But like specifically 2018 and Ragnarok, like when you're pulling off some of these combos, I mean, the video that's playing on that tweet was kind of showing it off. But you watch some of the people that were playing the DLC, you watch some of like the more intense boss fights in God of War Ragnarok, or even 2018, but I think it was honestly a whole new level in Ragnarok. Like, again, they nail how awesome it is to play, because the game really does feel incredible, and maybe that like escapes some people. The gameplay has a phenomenal feel to it, has a phenomenal flow, and I actually think that's what they did really, really well. Like, I go back and forth of which one I kind of prefer more, like the gameplay of, let's say, 3 and prior, or versus, Ragnarok in 2018. I mean, I could play either one all day long, but I actually think in terms of kind of capturing that cinematic while also the flow, while also just like actually being a good game to like press the buttons on, I think Ragnarok kind of is king. It really does nail the blend of all of those elements. So to sit there and look at somebody honestly like nailing amazing combos and nailing these kind of switch ups of using the spear and then using the chains and all that stuff, like some of it I can do, some of it I can't even do. Like I said, some of the harder fights in Ragnarok or some of the higher difficulties requires unbelievable management of those things, and again, switching and patterns and all that stuff that I can't even do, right? So it's like I can appreciate it for what it is, and I've also seen it be used far better than what I did myself. To say that it's just a movie, and there's nothing to it, again, I think that's actually what makes it special, is it looks like a movie. It actually is very flowy and very, I don't even know if flowy is a word, but, it flows well. Cinematically, it's nice, but also, like, it's just fun to play. And again, I think that's what 2018 and Ragnarok do so well, just in general. Whether you like the story or, character development or whatever, I think that's what these games nail so well, maybe even better than some of the other. Now, like I said, I think 3, just the way the quick time events are and, like, I don't know, everything coming together with fighting Zeus and fighting all of the gods and killing them all, like, I don't know how you could ever beat that. Like Ragnarok being like that end of time type thing, it was probably as close as you're going to get to like literal God of War 3, and I don't think they did it as well, myself personally. But, I still, again, love all of them. I think they're all great, great games, and I think a lot of them actually blend being cinematic, being something that you could show somebody and maybe fool them in. I remember, like, my grandma, I remember almost being able to trick her into thinking Assassin's Creed 2 was a movie. She was Italian, Italy, all that stuff, and she was amazed at just how well the world was put together. So it's like those kind of stories to me are really cool, and I like it when I'm able to almost fool people, or they tell me, like, oh, that looks like it, that looks like a movie. I mean, it looks so real, or it looks so good, and then you're playing it. And that playing part is important, you know what I mean? That's a part that I think a lot of people overlook. But like I said, I'm honestly willing to defend the, like, game-ness of anything. Like Life is Strange is a game. It doesn't have a lot of gameplay. It's still a game. Unfinished Swan, things like that. Those are games. Now, some of them have a little bit more gameplay than others, but maybe the most hardcore, like, walking sim games, I guess I'd hear an argument towards, but we're not really here to debate that one. If you want to, I guess we could. But yeah, so that's where I stand on God of War. I think it's just, it's engagement farm. It is what it is. That's another thing that I've come to kind of accept. Like, a lot of these people have the blue check marks. They're doing it for a check. They're doing it for money, kind of doing these like rage baits or bait tweeting, right, is really what they're doing. It's just to get money, and that's okay. I mean, like, hey, people want to make money, and so they do things to bait people. It's why it's not even really real. I mean, you can't put much stock into it, because if it's not coming from like a true feel or a true vibe, I don't even know if I'm saying like the right words, but you know what I mean? Like, if it doesn't feel real, that the person is kind of like putting on an act, well, number one, it probably is because that it is. If you can sense it, it probably is that they're putting on an act. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter in the first place, right? It's just online. And again, like, I'm sure there'll be a couple videos. Maybe there's already been videos made about it. But I mean, like, generally, that kind of back and forth, it really only happens. Like, okay, again, does it happen sometimes on YouTube? Yes. But, things like this tend to pop up the most by a mile on X or on Twitter. And sometimes they don't appear anywhere else, right? So that's just kind of things you have to keep in mind as well. So I kind of just take it in stride. I thought it would be kind of a fun video. I don't think God of War is a movie. I think if you do think it's only a movie, if it's only cinematic, I think you haven't played it. And I also think you probably don't really know games, to be honest with you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.